Welcome back on the AM show, and we talk about another crucial matter when it comes to our national life, security. Now, joining us for this conversation with regard to some escapees from jail from Nigeria. Recently, we heard only yesterday that 9 people suspected to be of that number had made their way through Adan into Ghana. They had been apprehended, but the question is, how many more could have slipped through the fingers of our security agencies? Joining the conversation, Professor Kwesi Yening, Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Center. Prof, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Well, good morning. It's always a great pleasure.
Great. Vindication for you. You said that this could happen, and it has happened. Do you feel vindicated?
No, I feel that we need to collaboratively engage, that we need a process where the professional, technical securocrats will draw frontline communities, bus drivers, farmers, hunters, landlords, landladies into this conversation and give them clear guidelines as to what to do if they experience, suspicious movements, suspicious gatherings, and, requests to rent rooms. So I don't have much to celebrate. As I head towards pension, my aim and my dream is to contribute to using my knowledge to help secure this country so I can put my feet up, play with my grandchildren, and continue to sample my malt whiskey.
Interesting for you, but could this imply that we could have the case on our hands where some of these nefarious elements, now it doesn't really matter if there are criminal elements crossing into our country. It doesn't matter whether there are a number of those jailbreakers or not. It would mean that it would be some security concern. How much of a concern would that be? If some 9 have been nabbed, is there the possibility there could be others who have already made their way into Ghana?
No, I don't have any doubt at all that there are others who have succeeded in entering and there are others who are on their way. Why do I say this? Because I've had experience of traveling along our northern borders a couple of times during the COVID period, plus the western boundaries, doing some work on small arms and, conflict and development assessments. And, the borders are very porous, to put it very lightly. There's very robust movements going back and forth, even though they are supposed to be closed, both on motorbikes, on foot. So whilst we should be happy that at least these 9 have been arrested, I think anyone who lives along those borders and knows how our borders look like will conclude that there is still a basis for some concern. But let me say this, the movement towards Ghana is really nothing new from Nigeria because, Ghana and Nigeria have these close relationships that in any time one country experiences crisis, we almost see the other as the legitimate first course or first stop in our search for protection, for accommodation, for solace, and, to be able to move on. So I think it's just natural, that these guys who have escaped would want to come to Ghana where they may have, friends and allies. But, this is not the first time that we are experiencing this. About 10 or so years ago, when the demobilization process with the Niger Delta boys really took off, there were actually plans to bring about 3,000 of these armed guys to Ghana for a process of demobilization, and that did not work eventually. So there's this conception that part of our hospitality is that, people can come in, settle in communities, and we will just forget about them. And therein lies my plea to the frontline security agencies to draw in communities and people who traverse these borders into the conversation, giving them very petty technical skills. What are the things that they should look out for? What is unusual? What is uncommon? Who do they report to? And then we should be asking ourselves much further, what will be our response mechanism? How quick can we respond and react when we get access to this information? So there's still a bit of work that we need to do. But this is a collaborative venture. It is not only for one institution. We all must see this as protecting ourselves. Final point. Over the last year and a half or 2 years, almost about 150 suspected terrorists have been arrested in this country along the borders. Okay, so we are facing a much larger problem in terms of attempts at infiltration, at settlement, at planning, at recruitment, and possibly, taking action. So we all need to be involved somehow.
Prof, having kept tabs on this situation, 9 were apprehended, 8 of them male, 1 female. Especially with the males, do you have any suspicions that they could be among the number of jailbreakers? Do you have any such suspicions? Any information you've picked that could be pointing to that particular conclusion?
No, not yet. But probably we shouldn't get too diverted as to who they are and what their backgrounds are, with particular respect to the jailbreakers. And that is why I've come in with the example of the actual numbers of suspected terrorists who have been arrested and dealt with in the last 18 to 24 months. Precisely because of our weakness with being able to identify who comes into our country, particularly those who use the unapproved routes. We've actually become some form of an attraction. We have huge, forest areas where over the past 3 years or so, there have been some fairly suspicious murders and, deaths within these, forest reserves. Small arms flows are massive. So were these guys not even part of the jailbreakers, there is still concern, or there should be concern, about the porosity of the borders. But even more worryingly, the rapidity of our response and the coherence of that response, because multiple agencies played this role. If you remember, a couple of months ago, one person was able to cross these borders with a stash of cash and cocaine, in which by the time the cocaine moved from the border area into Accra, 2 agencies were quarreling, about the weight of the captured cocaine and what had actually been recorded.
Right.
So, issues of interagency partnerships and collaboration increasingly problematic. Customs is fighting with immigration is fighting with the police is fighting with the armed forces. Look, a routine search of tensions within our security structures pops up and paints a rather disturbing picture of lack of trust, lack of partnership, lack of, collaboration. And I think these are things that those who seek to hurt us also read, understand, and recognize that there are opportunities for them to infiltrate, to settle, and possibly even to recruit more people. So yes, it's a good story that 9 people have been arrested, but there's nothing to be joyful about.
There's nothing to be joyful about. Let's stretch the conversation further. You talk about terrorism. Fortunately, you know, we've been spared from the major scourge of that. In the sub-region, you'd notice that most of the countries surrounding us have had their own brushes with terrorism. But should it be confirmed that any of them is a member of the jailbreak team, so to speak, how much danger would this pose to ordinary Ghanaians? Now, those who broke jail, we saw some of them using rocket-propelled grenades, machine guns, explosives, and assault rifles. Now, these are, you know, ammunition that could do a lot of damage. How much of a danger would this pose to ordinary Ghanaians?
I'm sure Kofi Boakye, COP Kofi Boakye, if he's listening to us, has a nice smile on his face. When Kofi Boakye was Commander 1 in Kumasi, he consistently attempted to dismantle trafficking networks that even had surface-to-air missiles, traffic networks in which weaponry came into Ghana from as far as Central Africa and Democratic Republic of Congo. We ourselves are an entry port for the inflow and outflow and distribution of guns in the sub-region. Okay, so I don't think we should extrapolate that were these 9 to be from the jailbreak, then suddenly, you know, explosives and surface-to-air missiles will suddenly flood this country. We are flooded already. I was in a town along the coast of Ghana a couple of weeks ago, and the shore had all these AA and AB bullets washed onto the shore and much further up. And I wondered, where did these bullets come from?
Which part of the country, Prof? Do you mind sharing?
I was at Pram Pram, the beach.
Wow.
Okay, and there were these bullets that had been washed onto the shore. Okay, I had gone to Pram Pram for a meeting and took a walk along the beach. And saw these things all over. Okay, so let me make this point and make it very clearly. Foreigners are not the cause of the infiltration of guns, sophisticated or otherwise, into this country. We ourselves import guns, and probably after this conversation, try and find out how many licenses have been issued for people to import guns into this country. We ourselves are major net exporters. No, importers first and foremost, and then the filtration of these guns outside Ghana at a point in time. You know, in 2016 or 2015, the Kofi Annan Center did a nationwide study on the status of our armories and magazines in this country, with the exception of the Ghana Armed Forces and in some instances the police service. Our capacities to protect or stockpile and manage our stockpiles were very poor. So let me give 2 very quick examples to show you the levels of poor arms stockpile management in this country. When the secessionists attacked, was it last year, the ease with which they got access to guns ought to have raised a question about the management of these guns in the hands of the statutory security forces. That broader conversation has not taken place. Prior to the secessionist attacks, armed robbers had also attacked several police stations and made away with automatic, rifles. So if we see a proliferation of guns in Ghana, let's say in the next month or 2, we should not link it to what has happened in Nigeria. We have a long history of handling weapons very poorly in this country. Okay, so we need to look at our stockpile, management systems, and hopefully what has happened in Nigeria because of this jailbreak and the access of those who contributed to the break, these sophisticated weapons, must encourage us to ask some really very tough questions about ourselves.
And
how prepared are we to ensure that this does not happen here?
Okay. Now, maybe one of those tough questions to ask at this point in time is how you feel about the state of preparedness of our security agencies. You started talking about them, but I'm looking at a tall list of names here when it comes to the 9 people. We have all their names, but apparently we can't even confirm whether or not they are part of, the jailbreakers. I bring this up because since April the 5th, when this happened, there have been collaborations, so to speak. How come we don't even know? We should have a list by now, don't you think, where we can confirm this person's name is on the list, and so we should have been able to confirm by now. What is your take on that, and how do you feel generally about the state of preparedness of our security services against the terrorist threat, against, the likes of entities from this jailbreak entering our country?
Well, let me probably flip the question around a little bit about the levels of preparedness. I think the levels of preparedness, I would characterize it as, from satisfactory to good. Because our ability to prevent these attacks, all the countries surrounding us have had some really very tough problems. We are seeing a downward movement towards the littoral states. So Benin has experienced it, Cote d'Ivoire has, Northern Togo has, Burkina Faso is almost gone, Mali is gone, Niger is struggling, northeastern Nigeria is, Boko Haram and the SWAP are getting bolder and bolder by the day. About a third of Cameroon is gone, the southern part of Chad. So we are seeing an aggressiveness, what I term as a third wave of these terrorist strikes. But part of Ghana's robustness in terms of its security system and its responses, but irrespective of some of the criticisms that people have, is the spread and the foresightedness of the planning. Okay, so we create 4 or 5 new regions, and already there are advanced plans to ensure that camps are established. The police service has already ensured that there are new command structures in place. The intelligence services have swarmed the whole of this country. Okay, so picking some of this evidence is useful. It's about the ability to triangulate, to analyze, and then the decision making, the speed with which the decisions are made to respond. Of course, there are issues with logistics and finances, issues of promotion and career paths. But all in all, we've managed with all these challenges to be able to protect this country. And I think any conversation around our levels of preparedness and levels of protection must be towards how do we improve our performance, okay? Because that is very key. I am not too concerned about these 9 people, okay? In West Africa, there's something called the West African Police Chiefs Conference or something of that sort, WAPCO. When institutions are built or created, and institutions do matter, institutions become effective and they deliver when they are underpinned by trust, a sense of shared values and shared norms. And those shared values and shared norms and trust will lead to a willingness to share information. Now, when a country has a mega jailbreak, there is a sense of shame, of failure, of having failed to protect and to deliver the security services. And therefore, I don't have any doubt at all that Ghana may have made an official request as to whether these 9 names were on the list of the prisoners, who have been documented in that camp. So there's a sense of shame and reticence to accept that, look, we are really very sorry, but these guys come from the jailbreak. Okay? But there are multiple ways in which institutions can share information in which the dignity and the integrity of the other partner whose pride is hurt can still share information. But I agree with you, it is of critical importance that at least we know who these people are. But that may be difficult knowing that criminals have multiple identities. Okay? Now, this may be small fry, but it is important that we identify who they are. And let me give you two reasons why. In 2009 and 2010, 3 people were arrested in Ghana for trading in narcotics. After our US friends then ran them through their databases, they were found to be terrorists from Colombia and from the Islamic State. We subsequently renditioned them to Morocco, and that is the end of the story. What happened to them, I don't know. The second story about false identities. If you remember, there was once a governor of the Bank of Ghana whose daughter married a major drug kingpin. And our intelligence services, in checking the man's background, were not able to find that this guy was a crook. Okay, so we live in a globalized world where access to multiple identities actually is fairly straightforward. So the identities that these guys might have gone to prison with might be different or might be multiple from who they truly are. So probably it will take a bit of time for our Nigerian partners to furnish us with who these people truly are. But I mean, knowing how much we invest in our prisons, I can assure you, is going to be one hell of a Herculean task, because I doubt if there are, fingerprints, iris databases, and all sorts of things that makes confirmation of one's identity fairly straightforward. So that might probably take some time.
Okay. On the international level of collaborativeness, what would you be looking forward to between, the Ghanaian and the Nigerian security agencies in the next week, in the next few weeks? What would you be looking forward to? And particularly in respect of the identity of these 9 people. Now, you talk about the processes that ought to be followed and even some of the shame that might arise owing to the slippages in the system. But how soon, for example, from your level of expertise, how soon would you say that we should be getting some information about their identities? What would you say in that respect?
Well, I am 100% sure that by now we have sent their pictures, their fingerprints to our Nigerian colleagues. I'm sure they will go through whatever database they have. And I don't have any doubt at all that 1 or 2 people might have been flown here, to come and interrogate them and to have a conversation, But as to whether the results from these partnerships will be shared with the larger public, it's another question altogether. Now, my concern with that relates to 2 things. Will the sharing of that information with the larger Ghanaian public foster a sense of security, or it will rather create a sense of insecurity? My suggestion and my reading is that what the Ghana partner needs is to be sure as to the identities and the backgrounds and the track record of these 9 people. And based on that, assuage the public of any fears. Now, more importantly, is what we started this conversation with. How do we bring the larger Ghanaian public into the debate in terms of the commonsensical steps that we all can take, to identify, to report, and to support? Because look, if you've traveled from Hamlet to Elubo, and particularly with the dry season, it's easy to crisscross. We don't have enough motorbikes, we don't have enough equipment, so whilst we focus on these 9 people in identifying who they are, so we can be sure of how we should respond and deal with them, we shouldn't take our eye off the ball in terms of the hundreds of kilometers of almost unguarded border posts. And we can only do that by bringing the border communities into the conversation, letting them understand that it is not that 50 cedis, 100 cedis, 150 cedi profit by turning your back on something that you are not sure in your mind, okay, that will change your status. If you are not sure, please pick up that phone, send that text, take that picture, and forward it to whoever. And here realized my criticism of some of these institutions. By now, there ought to have been a number, a WhatsApp number, a signal number, where people can send simple bits of information. I've seen this year, this is what it was. Knowing that we are very poor in remembering what we have seen, we should be encouraging people, helping them in terms of how to send this information.
Right.
Every little thing helps. Okay, and I'm using this phrase, every little information helps. Just as when we are being, encouraged to contribute our funeral donations, we can flip it around. In trying to protect ourselves, every little information helps. You send it, the professionals will check it out. Please get that information out and get the public to help you. This is for Mother Ghana. We need to be safe.
It's been a very revealing conversation, and it's always insightful, discoursing with you on matters to do with security and beyond. But Professor Enning, we are very grateful, immensely grateful for your time with us this morning, and I wish you the very best of the day, sir.
Thank you very much.
And that was Professor Enning, who joined us for that conversation, of course, with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. We take a bit of a break. When we come back, there's more right here on the AM show. Do stay.